Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. And this is the NFL DFS Core Pick video for Week 13. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's going to be one player at each position, so quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. Don't necessarily have to play all five together, but they are five players that I did like to highlight for this week overall. They look pretty attractive based on their matchup, based on their price tag. And then if you're interested in additional advice, be sure to check out my NFL DFS cheat sheets. They are 100% free, and they can be found on the YouTube community tab, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on the Sports Affiliation website. And then we'll also be posting them down in the comment section of this video as well. And then if you're interested in a larger player pool beyond that, feel free to check out my Patreon page. Very small monthly donation over there. You get access to my NFL DFS player pools for a month, as well as some daily NBA DFS initial player pools Monday through Friday. So definitely a great resource out there, especially if you're playing DFS across multiple sports. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the DraftKings side. We're going to start off at that quarterback position. Ultimately end up on Trevor Lawrence here, coming in at $5,400. Relatively cheap price tag. It's an attractive matchup going against the Tennessee Titans, who have a pretty lackluster secondary at this point in time. He does get Brian Thomas Jr. back this week as well, and he's currently averaging about 17 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been a little bit hit or miss throughout the year. If we can get 20 points out of him this week, going to look pretty good. Then we move down to running back with Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins, coming in at $8,300, averaging 22 fantasy points per game so far on the season. He's been having a really productive year once again. He's kind of a guy that's always done better when Tua has been at that starting quarterback position just in general. He's stayed relatively healthy so far this year. Goes against the New Orleans Saints, which is a very attractive matchup in its own right. So I definitely do love the upside of Achane in this matchup and the relatively safe floor that he does ultimately offer at the same time as well. And I know that a lot of other people are going to be on the other running back in that game, in Devin Neal, so maybe a little bit ways to get off of some leverage there, although Achane is quite a bit more expensive. And then we move down to wide receiver with Jawan Jennings, coming in at $4,700, currently averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game. It is a tougher matchup going against the Cleveland Browns. However, Jennings primarily plays out of the slot, and that's probably the most attractive spot to go against this Cleveland defense at this point in time. Jennings has had double-digit performances in 3 out of his last 4 games, touchdowns in 3 out of his last 4 games, so definitely do like the upside and the floor of him at the same time as well. And then we're going to move down to tight end with Colby Parkinson, who took over the starting tight end role for the Los Angeles Rams with Tyler Higbee hitting IR last week. So he comes in at $2,800, a very attractive matchup going against the Carolina Panthers, one of the worst defenses against opposing tight ends so far this season. And Colby Parkinson is coming off a pretty good game in his own right, so definitely do like his upside this week. Currently averaging just under 6 fantasy points per game, but definitely does have a ton of upside for even more than that. And then last but not least, we're going to go down to that Seattle Seahawks defense. They come in at $3,900, currently averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game on the season. And they go against the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy is out this week due to concussion protocols. So we are going to see Max Brosmer get the start for the Vikings. And obviously he is an unproven rookie quarterback at this point in time. You know, he looked all right in the preseason, but there's a big difference between playing against second and third stringers in the preseason and the full strength of the Seattle Seahawks defense just in general. Definitely do like their upside, especially if they're able to get pressure on him. And that Vikings offensive line has struggled mightily throughout the season. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $24,900 remaining, just over $6,200 remaining per player. So at least early on, probably looks a little bit like a balanced build type of day. Obviously, if you want to pay down at either that running back position or some of the wide receivers, you could pay up at other spots at the same time as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side of the quarterback position, ultimately ended up on Trevor Lawrence. Once again, he comes in at $7,200. Was debating between him and Matthew Stafford, who's at $8,000. So if you want to pay up to Matthew Stafford, do not have a problem with that whatsoever. Trevor Lawrence on the FanDuel side, currently averaging just under 17 fantasy points per game. A very attractive matchup going against the Tennessee Titans. He does get Brian Thomas Jr. back this week, so that should be a big boost to him just in general. So definitely do like the upside of him in this matchup. And then we're going to move down to running back once again with Devon Achane. He comes in at $8,700. If you want to play Christian McCaffrey instead of him, going against the Cleveland Browns, a little bit tougher matchup. but he is $100 cheaper, which is a very rare price tag for Christian McCaffrey on the FanDuel side just in general. So I don't have a problem getting to both them. And if you want to get to McCaffrey over Achane, I definitely do understand that at the same time as well. But with that being said, Achane is averaging just under 20 fantasy points per game. Very attractive matchup going against the New Orleans Saints. And like I mentioned on the DraftKings side, I do expect that his counterpart will be very popular on the slate overall, and Devin Neal with Alvin Kamara being out. But I like the safety of Achane. Obviously we're paying up a little bit more for him. Maybe a little bit of a leverage play just in general off of Christian McCaffrey, off of Devin Neal, and some of the other running backs that I do expect to be popular this week overall. And then we move down to wide receiver. I ultimately end up on Brian Thomas Jr. coming in at $6,500. I get it. It's a risky play. He's coming off that ankle injury, so there is kind of some boom-bust potential there. If you want to go to a different wide receiver, definitely do understand that. A lot of great options on the FanDuel side this week overall. But at $6,500, I think it's a pretty attractive price tag. He's not had the greatest season so far, as he's currently averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game. So there is risk there, but I think the upside is definitely worth that, especially against a Tennessee Titans secondary that is very, very lackluster at this point in time. And then we're going to move down to tight end with Colby Parkinson once again. So on the FanDuel side, he comes in at $4,800, which is one of the cheapest viable tight ends just in general. And he goes against the Carolina Panthers, one of the teams that have struggled quite a bit against that tight end position so far this year. Currently averaging just over 5 fantasy points per game. But there is no Tyler Higbee as he hit IR last week. Colby Parkinson kind of taking over that tight end one role for the Rams. He's a big body target, an end zone threat. So I definitely do like the upside that he does offer in this matchup. He had that strong performance last week. Let's see if he can repeat it once again this week as well. And then last but not least, we're going to go down in that Los Angeles Chargers defense. Coming in at $4,500, they go against Las Vegas Raiders, who have been one of the worst offenses in the league as of late. Chargers currently averaging just under 6 fantasy points per game. Not the greatest production on the year, but it is a very, very attractive matchup. If they can get pressure on Geno Smith, should be a very good game for them overall. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed here on the FanDuel side, you have $28,300 remaining, just under $7,100 remaining per player. Probably looking a little bit more like a balance build type of day. Obviously, we can pay down at a couple different positions and pay up at others. But if you want to go with that balance build, definitely do not have a problem with that whatsoever for this week overall. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel for Week 13. As always, if you have any questions related to NFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again, if you're looking for additional advice, be sure to check out my NFL DFS cheat sheets for both sites. They are 100% free, and they can be found on the YouTube community tab, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, and on the Sports Affiliation website. I will also be posting them down in the comment section of this video as well. And then if you're looking for a larger player pool beyond that, be sure to check out my Patreon page, a very small monthly donation over there. You get access to my NFL DFS player pools for a month. You get access to my NBA initial player pools Monday through Friday, as well as my NFL snap count spreadsheets. So definitely some great resources over there. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS in terms of the core picks, typically Monday through Friday. And then we have my NFL DFS core pick video coming out once a week, and that typically comes out on either Friday or Saturday. It varies a little bit week to week based on the rest of my schedule. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NFL DFS for Week 13.